Ladies and gentlemen, with the release of version 3.0 in just a couple of days, and the newest advertisement over here, the newest marketing material showing off the newest 3.0 5-star resonator arriving to the roster, Lynae, I thought today would be an awesome opportunity for us to actually go ahead and break down just how transformative this character is going to be. I've already made a bunch of different videos talking about her pull value, talking about how she can shake up the meta, but now what I wanted to do was, with her full kit information, right, with everything that we know regarding her buffs, her outro skill, her teammates, and of course her special tune effects, just how impactful all of her effects are going to be. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and start breaking down the most unique aspect about this character first. Everybody knows that Lynae essentially is a model sub-DPS with what she does. She has an outro skill. When you go all the way to the bottom over here, you'll be able to see, right, that she's got an outro skill that buffs all damage and resonance liberation. That, however, isn't the main reason for why she shakes up the meta so much. Yes, she has a unique outro skill that seems very general, but she's also got special tune break mechanics. And Lynae's kit overview is actually the first time that we've had an opportunity to see what these tune mechanics are actually scaling off of and the numbers. Lynae has the special ability to actually inflict tune rupture shifting or tune strain shifting on her targets. And the idea over here is that these are two unique effects that do different things. Tune rupture basically gives you this attack, spectral analysis, that you will attack them with when somebody does a tune break move. It's not entirely super clear what that looks like just from the skill description itself, but that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we always make sure to look at some additional resources. Tune break, tune, all of this stuff, it's essentially just an entirely new combat mechanic that some characters are going to be able to access various parts of. For the part that everyone can access, everyone can use a tune break attack. That's why they're demonstrating it with Yang Yang over here. That's done once their off tune meter is full. Tune strain and tune rupture are simply passive effects that Lynae will apply. And then when you tune break an enemy that has rupture on them, that's going to be that spectral analysis attack that Lynae does while she's off field. On the other hand, when you're doing tune strained, each point of Lynae's tune break boost is going to increase her total damage against that target. When Lynae's in the team, the target's max stack of tune strain interfered is going to be increased by 1. This is a circumstance where you actually want 3 members of the team that can interact with tune strain interfered. Basically, for every stack that you have, your damage is going to increase based off your tune break boost. To get more stacks, you need characters who can respond to tune strained interfered. Mornier is an example of a character who can respond to both tune rupture and tune strained. However, this is one thing that's not clear. What other characters in the game have tune strained? What other characters are going to be able to increase the stack limit so that you can change this from 0.12% to 0.36? You're essentially tripling it if you have the right teammates. So you can kind of see what is very unique about these off-tune mechanics. There's one type of off-tune mechanic where if you're the only tune member on the team, you probably want to use Rupture, because the damage of this off-field attack that we're seeing over here doesn't seem to be dependent on how many other tune characters you have on your team. But for Tune Strained, your damage and the effectiveness of Tune Strained is entirely dependent on how many other Tune Strained members you have on your team. To break this all down in the most simplistic way possible, Lynae's gonna have the ability to actually switch between these two forms in the skill menu using these two buttons. In 99% cases, I think that she's going to be on the left one. I think that she's always going to be on Toon Strained Ruptured. And then in 3.1 or 3.2, when we finally have a true Toon main DPS, that's when she'll tab over to the other side and use Toon Strained. Because right now, I don't think that there's any actual scalability for this buff that is based off of your stacked limit, knowing that there's only going to be 2 characters in the game who can respond to it. However, there is a bit of a plot twist. There is a chance, right, that certain resonators, other than Lynae and Mornier, might get the ability to respond to Toon Rupture or Toon Strained uniquely, right? It wouldn't be out of the ordinary. It could be something really cool. Maybe Augusta responds only to Toon Strained. Maybe Shorekeeper only responds to Toon Ruptured. Maybe blah 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 only responds to blah. That could be an interesting element that's added to a bunch of different units, and it could be that only the 3.0 units can uniquely respond to both. I think that would be a cool little way to differentiate while still bringing older units into the mechanic. Give the older units only one of these, but then give all the 3.0 units both. Could be cool, but we'll just have to see. I think the fact that Kuro's being this vague with the wording, and also the fact that, hey, it's going to be a little bit lame if you just don't even, if this form, Toon Strained, is just useless until like 3.2 or 3.3, but that might also be what's planned as well. So that's just something that I wanted to get straight before we even broke down the rest of her kit, because you can already see over here the types of teammates and the types of decisions that you're making when it comes to Lynae. They're already important before you even get onto the battlefield itself. Now let's begin talking about just how much this character actually buffs. She is, from what I'm seeing over here and what we've seen of her kit, one of the strongest sub-DPS characters in the game. Let me just go through chronologically what she has available. Are you ready? Her outro skill reads as: grant 15% all damage amp and 25% liberation damage amp. At a baseline, she gives every character in the game 15% amp, and up to 40 depending on the damage type you deal. She also gives, and this is going to be a very, very, very important one, guys, she also gives a 40-point Toon Break boost to the entire team. One thing that we saw before, and there's a reason why I covered the strain mechanics first, your Toon Strain interfered damage boost scales off of your Toon Break boost. So, Lynae directly supports this archetype as well. And when you factor in that Toon Break boost makes your Toon Breaks deal more damage, well, it's also going to make the burst window when you're using Toon Ruptured and you use this burst attack, well, then it's also going to deal more damage there as well. So you can clearly see she's got a lot of buffs just for these 2 special interactions, but there's more. She not only is going to give the buffs and the damage increases to Toon Strained, she's also going to have a specific Sonata set that just goes ahead and scales, gives them extra attack based off the recipient's Toon Break boost stat. So she directly buffs her own Sonata set. And you want to know what the chances are? This is going to be stronger than Moonlit Clouds. Moonlit Clouds gives like 22.5% attack. I wouldn't be surprised if this gives like 25 or 30 if their Toon Break boost is maxed out. Otherwise, there would be no point in this one being weaker than Moonlit Clouds if it's going to be this specialized and this niche. So you have that whole situation going on, more buffs. And guess what? That's not it. There's more, guys. Remember how I mentioned that Toon Break is getting buffed by Toon Break Boost? Every character in the game, remember this. This is a Yang Yang, a 1.0 unit, doing a Toon Break skill. So this isn't like some exclusive buff where it only feels like certain members of the roster can use that Toon Break boost. Everyone can use it because everyone has a Toon Break attack, and then everyone can also benefit from that attack increase unless they're fucking Cartithia. Very, very general, as we can see over here. And when you factor in that she has a 15% all damage amp on her outro skill, you're slowly starting to see why she probably has the title of the best sub-DPS in the game. The best general sub-DPS in the game. Because you want to know what else she has? Using her ultimate gives the entire team a 24% all damage bonus that lasts for 30 seconds. Do you want to know what this is the equivalent of? She basically has like a Lupa signature, but for every attribute built into her kit. And obviously, Lupa has her own buffs to fusion as well that exceed this in her kit too. But that's how significant of a buff it is. And it's just being thrown onto her liberation, and that deals damage. It's a very similar buff to like Chakona's weapon. Sorry, that's static piss. Like Chakona's weapon that reduces arrow res, except it's like reducing all res because you're buffing everybody's damage. She's got all damage bonus to the entire team plus 15% all damage amp plus Tomb Break boost to boost everybody's damage. Oh, and sorry, I forgot about the last part too. And then the Sonata set on top of it, right? Then the Sonata set on top of it that gives people even more attack. The end result, guys, if it's not clear from what I'm saying, is that Lynae probably can be a sub DPS for every single character in the game. Even if you're not a character that benefits from liberation damage, I think that Lynae can still just sub DPS for you because she'll give you attack, all attribute damage bonus, 15% all damage amp, Tomb Break boost, an attack boost that scales off of your Tomb Break boost, and guess what else? If she's being a sub DPS, throw an additional 10% to 20% attack on top of that Tomb Break attack boost from the Sonata set because you'll have Static Mist on her. And if you decide, hey, I don't want to use Static Mist, I want Lynae's Sig, well then guess what? Lynae's signature gives you another 24% all damage bonus. So basically, her Sig essentially just doubles up on the effect from her liberation. Turns it from 24 to 48%. That's her signature. And you want to know what a 48% all attribute damage boost is? That's just straight up the signature of a character. Carlotta's signature gives a 48% resonance skill damage boost. Lynae, with her signature, give a 48% all damage boost. And you can see every 1.0 to 2.0 Sig kind of operates in the same fucking way. And so, Lynae alone, with her signature, gives this bonus, but all general, all attribute, no typing, no like fusion, no fusion specificity. And when you know that these are all confirmed details, I think this character could literally deal 0 damage and still find play. I actually think this character could just go on field for 7 seconds, do nothing, and just because of her buffs, she'd still see play. But you want to know what else is also coming with her kit? She's also going to have some degree of main DPS potential because she's also got her own fucking DPS Sonata set. Because yeah, she deals basic attack damage and wants to use her liberation to increase it if she plays as a DPS. And you want to know what else her signature has, guys? Let me just tell you how broken Lynae's signature actually is. I mentioned that with her Sig, you get a 48% damage bonus, right? To the entire team for any type. Well, that's discounting the fact that Lynae's signature also has its own built-in damage bonus too. Yes, it gives you just straight up 36% basic attack damage for Lynae's personal damage, and then the stack up to 24%. So as a weapon, it gives 60%. Basic 60% damage boost, essentially, when you add up both of these. That's also just more than the other weapons we've seen. Like, I already just showed you, like, Carlotta's, right? That 60% is already more. So, guys, from what I'm seeing on the personal buff side, she's not lacking very much either. And so what I imagine is that some of her motion values aren't going to be the best. You might have to do a bit of a weirder rotation compared to her shorter sub DPS one to get her going on a main DPS playstyle. But I don't think it's going to be that crazy, especially considering this incredible fucking power that she has to work with over here. And of course, all the other buffs that we're seeing in her kit. Because you guys remember, these buffs that she gives, they're not just to the team, guys. She gets these buffs as well. She gets this 24% all damage boost. She gets the 40 Tomb Break boost. The only thing she doesn't get is her outro skill. But you want to know who has an outro skill that buffs basic attack damage? Oh, right, the unit that everyone gets for free, that has the fastest rotation in the game. So if you need to do some weird fucked up shit as a main DPS, she's the one to go with. Because when you play this character with Brant, oh, you do some weird shit on Brant, but the team ends up working. I imagine that because Lynae has a very, very similar playstyle to Brant, where she's got 2 different versions, right, of her big nuke, but then one of them has a cooldown. Guess what Brant has? two anchors. One of them does a lot more damage, but one of them has a cooldown. Brand's anchor is tied to his liberation. Lynae's is just tied to the cooldown of visual impact. So yeah, I imagine she might have like some double intro stuff that she can do to trigger both of these in one rotation. Just like how Brand can drop two anchors in one rotation. So I imagine that this mechanic over here, playing between these two in double intro skills, will actually be the main DPS playstyle for this unit with a Sanhua. Just think about Brant and whatever they can do. That's going to be my take when it comes to the sub-DPS, main DPS sort of split. And now, we need to talk about the value that she has in the future. Because one thing is clear. To be able to interact with any of these Tomb Break mechanics at all, you need a character that can apply it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this over here, if you have Mornier, but you don't have Lynae, you might as well pretend Toon Strained and Toon Rupture don't exist. Because Mornier can only respond to somebody inflicting it. Mornier cannot inflict it herself. And so, the end result is that Lynae does feel like she's mandatory if you plan on building out this mechanic at all. And if you don't pull Lynae and you pull Mornier, you might feel like you're heavily limiting the ceiling on the unit. It's very clear that you're going to want to pull both, right? Especially considering that Mornier is supposed to be like the support of this archetype. But it also means there's a lot of uncertainty in the future. And this level of uncertainty is something that I really don't like, especially when you consider how unclear the future of this mechanic is. Because are there going to be more characters that can inflict Toon Rupture or Toon Shifted? Are they only going to release units that can respond? And so is Lynae going to be a linchpin in every single 3.0 team because you don't have the Toon Break mechanic if she's not on it? The health of this archetype and the health of this part of the roster is entirely dependent on how many units can do the inflicting. Because you want to know what it looks like when you only have one inflictor and one responder. This is basically what it is, guys. Zani is somebody who responds. Phoebe is somebody that inflicts. If you have nobody that inflicts Frazzle, Zani is pretty bad. Like, incredibly dog shit useless bad. If you have somebody that inflicts, but then nobody that can respond, it's also useless. Phoebe's dog shit. Confession mode without a Zani. That much is clear. My take on Tomb Break is, it can never be as bad as negative statuses, Chisa, any of that. It can never be as close to bad as negative statuses as long as this thing remains true. If a 3.0 unit doesn't interact with any of this, are they still good? And if the answer is yes, we're already clearing negative statuses. However, if the characters, the 3.0 units, feel like they're severely lacking unless you engage with this, then it's negative status round 2 Electric Boogaloo. Because guess what? When you don't have Phoebe, this character feels really bad. When you don't have Chacona, this character also feels really bad. If you don't have an Arrow Rover or a Chisa, the character also feels really bad. Not necessarily her, she actually has more teammates. From what I'm seeing so far, because this effect is so small, it doesn't look like, right? 40 times guys, even at max stacks, right? 40 times 0.36, guys, that's like fucking, because Lynae gives a 40 point boost, right? 0.12 times 3 is 0.36. This is a 14.4% damage increase, assuming that you have all 3 Toon Straight interfered members. That's not a lot. That's like less than a TOA buff. A 14.4% delta, not that crazy. So to me, it doesn't look like these are that necessary for a character to function for the balancing numbers that I've seen over here, and I can appreciate that. However, it also begs the question of, a 14% is so small, it does make you wonder why this is even here in the first place. It does make you wonder, like, why is this even here in the first place when the bonus is that tiny? I don't know. And the thing is that I'm not sure whether or not this is half-baked. And I think the fact that, like, the description of Rupture just seems a little bit vague as well, too. So who knows? Maybe we'll see more updates to this as time goes on, but for the first initial pass, this doesn't seem too bad to me. However, I would like to see other characters actually be able to interact with this, have 1 or 2 of the possibilities baked into their kits if they do actually plan on, I guess, increasing the reach of this as time goes on. Are we sure that 2.x and 1.x can't do rupture? No, we're not sure. But you want to know the other thing is, we also don't know if they can. And so, the point of the matter is, I'm only going off of who has been confirmed to be able to react to it. And so I could say, wow, Kuro's actually super friendly and they're going to let everybody well, I don't know. And so I could sit here and pretend and just theory craft all day, but that's just fucking useless. The point of the matter is, it's restrictive. We don't know how restrictive it's going to be. And I just hope it's not as restrictive as what it's looking over here, because from what it looks like over here, they're the only two that are going to be able to interact with it. But who knows? All I'll say is, it's 100% clear from anybody that's been keeping up with kit news, from anybody that's been keeping up with meta shifts, and of course the new mechanics in the game. Lynae is essentially a must pull if you plan on interacting with or getting the most out of the rest of the 3.0 roster. What isn't quite clear yet is how much value she's going to have for older units and how much older units are going to interact with the system. Because she is, and it's pretty clear that she is, the driver of everything over here. Quite literally. I think that's actually why she's the motorcycle riding character. Because if she's not there, nothing else can happen. It's like it doesn't exist. She's literally in the driver's seat. And so if you want to have any semblance of control or like have confidence in building out your 3.0 roster, right now, if you don't get her, the other 3.0 units won't like really work properly. And that's a fact. We'll see just how much she enables them, but just keep that in mind as we head into the guide, as we head into the polls, as we head into potentially the last few days of Frolova's banner. You've got a hard decision to make. And unfortunately, when we don't know what the next set of units are looking like I mentioned before, version 3.1 could be entirely negative status focused. And I think it will be, because you know who still needs teammates? This useless bitch. So yeah, that'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.